Uh-oh, you know what that sound means. It means it's lunch talk time.
Welcome to the all-new Lunch Talk Show with Mike and Star Carter.
This show will discuss relationship, family, celebrity news, and much, much more.
So stay tuned, because you never know what the Lunch Talk crew is serving up every Friday. What's up, Lunch Talk family? We are back with an all-new Lunch Talk with Mike and Star. So how you doing today, Mr. Carter?
Oh, I'm doing great, doing wonderful. It's the weekend. Man, I'm ready for it, too.
All right, so we are back again on the air, bringing you some more interesting things that's been going on in this wonderful world that we live in. So if this is your first time listening to the show, we appreciate all the love and support. Make sure you're subscribing on whatever podcast platform that tickles your fancy, because we are on all of them.
Oh, yeah. We're on every single one. Don't matter which one you listen, guys. Just listen.
Just listen and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. All our episodes come out on Friday around 11:55-ish, noonish. That's usually when they come out, right in time for your Friday lunch. So, once again, if you're new, what we're about to do now is what we call the appetizer part of the show. My husband does what we call the interesting tidbit. So what do you got today?
All right. Psychologists say that the secret to your success is in who you marry. Sort of interesting. Yeah. Who you marry can determine how successful you're going to be. Okay, according to the study published by researchers from the Carnegie Mellon University, people with supportive spouses are more likely to give themselves the chance to be successful. After studying 163 married couples, psychologists found that the subjects with supportive spouses were more likely to take on potentially rewarding challenges. Those who accept challenges experience more personal growth, happiness, and also psychological well-being just a few months later. We found support for the idea that the choices people make at these specific decisions point, such as pursuing work opportunities, matter of lot, for long-term well-being. Okay. And also they said on this thing right here that Barack Obama accredits his success to Michelle. So that just lets you know that who you marry can, determine how successful you'll be. They're supporting your dreams or your goals and not trying to hinder you from doing them. So if you got a supportive spouse, that means that you'll go out and, take those necessary risks to be successful. Right. Instead of, a negative Nelly always telling you, you can't do this or you can't do that. So, so Barack Obama, he accredited his to his wife. He's saying that she was very supportive and she stuck by him, and just think about it. A man of color wants to be president of the United States. Mm-hmm. Now, that could have went terribly wrong if he didn't have a supportive spouse, something that's never been done in history. Mm-hmm. Never been done in history. He could have had one of those wives like, man, what do you think you're doing? We ain't never had a man of color for president of the United States. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And that could have killed that dream right then.
Right.
But instead, she was very supportive. So, that little study they did, I think that, that's a very good idea. That's good stuff, by having a supportive spouse. And, that goes both ways, male and female. They can help you reach success in all your dreams. So I agree with that. I agree with that 100%.
That is shocking to me.
Why you say that?
Because last week, y'all remember Lunch Talk? If I had to rewind, I'll rewind it. That was in one of our top 20. It says be supportive in your spouse's endeavors. And that's when I was saying, okay, if you got a spouse that like to sing or rap or whatever, you should be supportive and all. And you was like, no, because you don't want your significant other out there looking like a fool or whatever, whatnot. And you're like, oh, I don't agree with that. But I guess it just depends on what they doing. Is that what you would say?
No, what I was saying was if your spouse is not talented in that area and you just supported them because you're married to them, I said, no, that wouldn't be a good idea because of the fact that, they sound horrible and they're going off you saying that, oh, yeah, babe, you're great. You're doing a wonderful job. You're doing this, you're doing that. So, I think, that right there, don't lie to your mate. But, you know, in Barack and Michelle's case, you know, you had a very intelligent brother that actually could have been president. You know what I mean? So he had all the characteristics of being president, you know, and, you know, so she knew that and she just supported him. But if he was like an airhead and she still tried to support him to be president, that could have been ugly. You'd been like, you know, come on, dude. That's like that other black guy that tried to run for president, that so-called doctor.
Are you talking about the neurologist?
Yeah, that guy. Yeah, and that was like crazy because that wasn't a good idea. So about him trying to run for president, but Barack, you know, he really, you know, could have been, you know, did a great job at the presidency, you know, so something like that. That's the reason I was saying that I think your mate should be honest with you if you do have a potential to do that job that you have in your mind for your dream or whatever. But if you just horrible at it and your mate is saying, "Okay, honey, go for it anyway," that's not wise.
Yeah,
that's not wise at all.
Who else said that they accredit their success to Will Smith? Wasn't it Will Smith?
Well, Will Smith accredited his to one of his girls. Yeah, one of his girls. Yeah.
Yeah, the ones he married.
Yeah.
Yeah. When he was right before he started doing Fresh Prince. Yeah. That,
well, actually, it was that his Parents Just Don't Understand album. He said that album went like platinum or whatever, and then he put out another one and it flopped. So he decided to give it up, but his, you know, girlfriend at the time told him no, no. You know, to keep pushing in that, cause you know Will Smith was good. He was good. He was a good rapper. You know.
Yeah.
But
at the time, it was a lot of gangster rap.
Yeah, and you know Will Smith used to do that fun-loving type of rap. You know what I mean?
He's like the Sinbad to comedy.
Exactly.
Everybody else was cussing. Sinbad was, you know, he never cursed, but he was still funny. And I guess like with Will Smith, his music has never been raunchy, never talked down to women. You know, never was like that. And back then, if you wasn't effing the police and all that in the late 80s and 90s, your music was garbage, you know, a lot of times. But I feel like, as you can see, he's still in the game. So whoever it was that talked to him gave him a really good talk because he's still in the music game and everything. He's still in it. So in the movies. So that's a good thing. Good thing. I really do think it's important to support your mate's endeavors. Because you never know what it might turn into. Another person, Stephen King. We almost did not have Stephen King because Stephen King threw away Carrie because it got rejected like 70-something times. And everybody know Carrie now. She's the girl that burned down the prom. But it got rejected like 70-something times. And he was like a janitor or something. It was, you know, not a good paying job anyway. And he threw it in the trash. And his wife, Tabitha King, got that manuscript out of the trash. She said, pretty much, I don't care if you got rejected 79 more times. We're not going to do it. And she got it out the trash and she supported him. And hey, we got Stephen King. We almost didn't have him. So I feel like, you know, it's beneficial to support your mate because sometimes your mate can see something in you that you can't see in yourself. Because a lot of times we deal with self-doubt. You know, we doubt ourselves a lot. We second guess ourselves a lot. And sometimes you just need that person to let you know that, hey, you can do this, you know. Especially when you start in a new business and stuff like that. I feel like that's the reason why a lot of businesses fail because they may not have somebody behind them to give them that extra push or that extra motivation that they need to get to the next level. Because I've been there. Remember I told you when I started writing in 2015, when I had all the self-doubt, I didn't have anybody that was significant other for me because I had just went through a divorce to give me that push that I needed when the days got dark and I didn't want to write or I felt inadequate. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like it's very beneficial. So great, interesting tidbit. You got anything else on before we move on?
No.
All right. Today's Soup and Salad, guys, is this Saturday, tomorrow, February the 29th, is the Democratic primary in South Carolina. So if you're in South Carolina, make sure you go out and vote for the Democratic candidate that you would like to see on the ballot when we vote later on this year to see who is going to be the next president. So far, Bernie Sanders is the front runner. But in South Carolina, a poll is showing that Joe Biden is looking to win South Carolina, but it's only by a measly 5 points. So if you're a Bernie Sanders person and that's who you want to see on the ballot this year, make sure you go out and vote this Saturday in South Carolina. If you're in South Carolina, that's where we're at. I don't know what the other states time, so you just have to check that out for your local areas. But South Carolina is this Saturday. Polls are supposed to open at 7 and close at 7, so you might want to just check. Make sure you have your right identification, your voter's registration, whatever it is that you need to have. Make sure you have it so you do not have any problems when you show up to the polls, okay? Because that's the thing. A lot of times you show up to the polls, you don't have the right stuff, then you can't vote or you got to go back and all that. Just show up with everything. Bring everything that you need to make sure that you can exercise your right to vote. Especially with this being Black History Month, I feel like a lot of people put their lives on the line so that we could have the right to vote. So it's very important. Make sure you get out and do it. Do your part. All right, so that's it for the soup and the salad.
Okay, one more thing on that. Tom, where's Tom in the running?
Tom
who? The other Democrat, Tom, what his name? Sawyer, somebody.
Steyer.
Yeah, Tom Steyer.
To be honest, I don't know. They were just saying that Bernie was the front runner so far. 2 months in 2020, after 3 states have weighed in, Iowa, New Hampshire, Nevada, Bernie so far is the front runner. But they said that a recent poll showed that Joe Biden is leading in South Carolina right now. They even had it on the cover of our local newspaper today. Mm-hmm. So right now, I don't know. They hadn't really said anything too
all
much
the money
about
him and that Bloomberg guy putting in these advertising, I'm surprised they're not in it somewhere. But oh well, okay.
I don't know. But right now,
okay.
It's people really looking at Bernie. So
about time, cause Bernie, that old timer boy, he got a lot of fight in him, boy. Mm-hmm. He been trying. He been trying.
Yeah, he been trying.
He been sticking. He been sticking to his guns. You know.
Yeah.
He really has. He really has.
So he's pushing for minimum wage to be $15 an hour. He's wanting free tuition, health care, and stuff like that. That's what he's pushing for. So. You know, I say look at everybody, know a little bit about what they're doing, and make an informed decision. Don't just go with it because it's just the popular thing to do. I say look at everybody, and then even if you can even look on the Republican side. I mean, just because your family or you used to voting one way, they might not be talking about what you want to hear. The other side might be talking about what you want to hear. So you just got to be informed and just, look, on all angles. That's what I say. And just make an informed decision and not just a rash decision just because, my cousin voting for this person, so I'm voting for this person or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So I just feel like that's my 2 cents. What you think?
Yeah, about the same. Everybody thinks that Democratic is mostly... black votes. That's how they got it. Republicans are mostly white. But I mean, I know it's not true, but that's how everybody look at it. The Republicans are more for the middle class. Democrats are more for the middle class, and the Republicans are more for the rich. Mm-hmm. That's how everybody looks at the thing. But not necessarily saying that's true. But she's right. Do your due diligence and find out, who's touching on some of the basics that you want. Mm-hmm. Some of the ideas that you guys have in common with these candidates. So just don't do it because of. Like she was saying that your family did it or whatever, or Joe Biden, he was with Barack Obama or whatever. Just listen to these guys and find out what they're really about. I know all of them lie. Okay, we all know that. But, just find out who's closer to, you think, the greater good. The greater or two evil, so to speak.
Right. And who you think can get close to getting it done in 4 years? Because a lot of these things that they're promising, a lot of them are not going to get it done in their first term because you always got to address the previous term, the previous president and what they did. So I feel like the first year or two is trying to get settled in and do, especially if you came in like Barack. Barack had 4 years to clean up before he could even start on
Oh boy,
on the Obamacare.
He came into a oh boy.
You know, and then they try to destroy it, you know, with Trump's presidency. So even if Bernie does get it, you know, it's going to take him a minute to get these things put into place. So it's probably going to take 2 terms. So you got to think about that too. The person that you vote for, could you do it with them for 8 years? That's another thing, because it's going to take more than 1 term for some of these things that a lot of these presidential hopefuls are putting out there on the table. It's going to take more than 1 term. So you got to look at that too. I think a lot of people that voted in 2016 let hate fill their vote. And that's why we are where we are right now. We're in this hateful society because of that. Now, Lunch Talk don't get all political and all that stuff, so we about to move on. But like me and my husband just said, just do your due diligence and make informed decisions when you go to your polls. And that's it.
All right.
All right, guys. So thanks again for tuning in to Lunch Talk with Mike and Star. So we about to take our commercial break, but before we go on the break, I got a question for my Lunch Talk family, and I hope y'all hit us up at lunchtalkshow@gmail.com. Do you think it's fair for a father to pay more than half of the child's support throughout the year, but still don't get to claim the child during tax season? That's what we're going to talk about when we come back from this commercial break. This is one of our serious topics. You know, we said we're going to have one at least once a month. So this is one of our serious topics since we are in the tax season. Do you think that's fair? Please hit us up, lunchtalkshow@gmail.com, and we'll be back in just a few seconds after these breaks. All right, so we are back with Lunch Talk with Mike and Star. Thanks again for tuning in. So before I left for the commercial break, I asked y'all, do you think it's fair, Lunch Talk family, for a father to pay more than half of the support for a child throughout the year, but then cannot claim the child during the tax season? And usually that happens because the child usually lives with the mother, usually. That's usually how that goes when they can't claim. So do you think that's a fair thing for a father to pay more than half of the support for the child, but then come tax time, they can't claim it? Being a male, I'm going to let you weigh in on it. What do you think, babe?
Well, I do. I think that is unfair in a way, because, you know, like you say, 9 times out of 10, they look at it, where's the child living? You know, what's his residence? And that's the rightful person that's supposed to be able to claim them on their taxes. I that right there is a tricky one, because, you know, you providing, you know, a roof over a child's head. Okay. So you're paying light bill, rent, you know, whatever else needs to be done in the household. Not saying you're doing everything on yourself to buy clothes, shoes, and stuff like that for the child, because like you were saying, the father, you know, is doing his part in that way too. So I think in that situation, I think if you got somebody that you can talk to, I think y'all should split it. I mean, I really do. Like, you know, if this is possible, you know, you carrying 1 year and this person carrying another year, you know, that's how I think you should look at it. You know, because it may throw up a red flag with the IRS or whatever, because you're claiming this child not every year. But, you know, when push comes to shove, everything still work out. Your taxes might get held a little bit because they might take a look at it. Mm-hmm. But overall, if, you know, nobody's protesting, then you're going to get your money. So I think that it should be split, because, you know, I know the child needs a home. Okay, the child needs a home, because that's what they look at it. The child needs, you know, all the basis, you know, for living, you know, a home, a roof over his head, you know, water or whatever, you know, not just clothes and stuff. And that's what the father is helping with. But I think the father is doing his part too. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Even though the child is not living with him, you know. So like I said, that one sort of is tricky. So, but if you could talk to the person and and the mother is in good standings, I think y'all should talk about it. And, you know, I think it should be split. That's how I think it should be. You know, that's just me weighing in on it. But, you know, again, like I said, I can see it on the other end too. You know, if the mother claims it because the mother say, okay, I'm putting a roof over his head, you know, he lives with me. I can understand that too. But like I say now, I think it should be a compromise in there somewhere.
Mm-hmm. I can agree with that. I feel like if you are getting child support, whether it's court ordered or the father is writing you a check for X amount of dollars every month, and that X amount of dollars is supposed to go towards food, clothing, shelter, whatever it is that you use that money for. And I'm not talking about the people that's only getting, the little $40 to $50 a week. I ain't talking about that. I'm talking about men that, like I said, supports the child more than half. They pay more than half of the child's support in the year. Do we think it's fair for that other parent to still be able to claim the child? And me personally, I feel like my husband, I feel like it should be a split. And the reason why I feel like it should be a split is because by that child living there, that means 9 times out of 10, the mother is doing more of the rearing of the child, the more of the discipline, the more of school and all that type of stuff and everything. That's usually how it goes. And not saying that the father may be absent, but if he's only contributing to the child just monetary, then I feel like it should be a split, especially if he's paying upwards of $400 and $500 a month for the child. Some people really get hit upside the head with child support depending on what kind of money they make, But I just feel like my husband said, if you have a person who you have your child with, if they got a mind to know what is fair and what is not fair, then hey, I would say, hey, let her claim the child, but let her give you half the tax money or something like that. But yeah, because somebody's got to claim the child. And I don't think you can do the every other year thing, because like you said, that would throw up red flags, because they're like, okay, well, who does the child really live with? Because one year the child lives here, then next year you got the child on your tax return saying the child live here.
Okay, what about split custody? The child don't have no permanent residence. If you got split custody, court ordered. Okay, what about that then? Because he lives with you, like I said, half the year, live with her half the year. So how would they say that then?
I don't know. That's a really great question. How would you do? I guess when because when you file your taxes, they ask the question, did the child live with you more in that year? Did the child live with you on December the 31st of that year? Did you provide more than half of the support for that child in that year? So those are questions that it asks when you I know when I filed my own taxes. So those are some questions that it asks. So I guess it depends on what those answers are, whether it warrants the next step. And because I have not been in that situation, I don't know what that next step would be. As far as, like you just said, maybe it's a split custody type of thing, where it's a half and a half. They live here half the year, live there half the year, whatever. So I really don't know, but that's interesting to find out. If anybody out there in our Lunch Talk community that does know, hey, hit us up, lunchtalkshow@gmail.com, because that would be interesting to know, because I have no clue. Like I said, I've never been in that situation, so I don't have a clue how that would work.
Okay, yeah, I was just going off that when you said, you can't file like one child this year, one child next year.
I didn't think so. But
like I was saying, so how did that work? But I don't know, because, you got parents that, well, back in the day, 'cause I know they put a tighter leash on it now, but back in the day, they used to sell their kids. So, like, okay, they used to have, like, 2 or 3 kids extra, they'll claim 2 and sell 2. So, and then it's no telling who gets that kid every year. So, they never did red flag them back in the day.
See, I think that's why.
So, but like I say
so
now, that's what I'm saying. Now, I think it's a little more red flag on it. Because, back in the day, how our people used to do now. We found ways around the system. That's what we do. To make a little extra money, they sell their food stamps, they sell their kids. But, that's another story. But, so, I just, it's, like I said, that's another one that you can't. It's hard to say how would they look at that. You know what I'm saying? With the selling of the kids. So, but now, like we were saying, I think it's a little tougher to do that now.
Oh yeah, that's what I was telling you guys last week about not filing your taxes till closer to March, because they holding the tax returns till after April 15th. That has the earned income credit, tax credit, and the child tax credit, because those are what you call free money. In other words, certain income levels will get you those credits for free. So basically, they just give you that money because you didn't make enough money. So therefore, that's why they hold those taxes a little bit longer than, say, if you itemize your deductions. By having a mortgage, by having doctor bills, and you save all your receipts and blah, 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 and you getting these credits back because you done paid so much money out, and you supposed to get some of this money back that you done paid out. But if you're not one of those people and you are low income and blah, 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 then that's when you get these earned income credits, and that's why they hold those tax returns up longer. And I feel like that's the reason why back in the day, like my husband was saying, shoot, you had people claim the cats, the dogs, and everything. You used to claim anything that you, quote unquote, provided support for at some point. But then they cracked down and said, okay, now everything, because at one point you didn't have to have a social security number for everything. Then it went to, okay, in order to claim them, they have to have a social security number. And then that's what stopped the cats and the dogs from being claimed. And so now, because people are selling their kids to different people like they were doing instead of sticking with the same person, that to me is what threw up the red flags. Because if you are gonna, like, you got 4 kids, you claim 2, and then you let somebody else claim 2, but then the next year, instead of letting that same somebody claim 2, you let somebody else claim 2. That's what's gonna throw up red flags to me, because that same social security numbers for those same 2 kids, now they can't have 10 dads and 10 moms, because you keep changing it up every year, you know what I'm saying? So I feel like that was one of the main things that has caused them to be so tight on these tax returns. But I looked up something, guys, because I was very intrigued about that question that my husband said about, so what do you do when there is a split custody? So the IRS got something called tiebreaker rules for claiming dependents. So this is very interesting. Listen at this. The parent who has custody for the greater part of the year generally gets to claim the child as a dependent for tax purposes. So we said that. It says that having dependents, of course, can increase your earned income tax credit, which we said if you're eligible, is definitely worth claiming if you're entitled to it. So we all know about that. Unfortunately, only one taxpayer can claim each dependent. You might be divorced, or perhaps you and your child's other parent never married. IRS rules prohibit you from effectively splitting your dependent down the middle. Only one of you can claim your child. You can reach an agreement as to which of you that will be, but the IRS will apply certain tiebreaker rules otherwise to determine which parent has the right to claim the dependent. Some parents with multiple children do divide them at tax time, perhaps with one parent claiming one child and the other parent claiming the other. This is perfectly acceptable to the IRS. So if you got more than one kid with the same person, okay, you claim Susie, I'm gonna claim Steve, and hey, that's it. So that's one way that could make it fair if you got a split custody thing. If you got more than one kid, it said a parent always gets to claim the child as a dependent in cases where only that taxpayer is actually the child's parent. So you got to be the child's parent. No more selling of the kids. All right. So custody splits that aren't 50-50 The first rule the IRS imposes is that the right to claim a child goes to the parent with whom the child lived most during the tax year. This is typically the custodial parent. For example, if you would be entitled to claim your child if they spent 300 nights with you during the year, but just 65 nights with your ex. In cases where two parents share physical custody, but the child resides with one parent more than 50% of the time, the parent with the greater percentage of parenting time is awarded the right to claim the child. So what we were saying was, is it fair if the other parent is paying more, but the child is living with the other parent? So what the IRS saying is, it don't matter. If that child lives with that other parent more of the time, they are the one that get to claim the child. Now, check this out. Of course, an exact 50-50 split is almost impossible, except for in leap years, because there are an odd number of days in each year. Even in perfectly scheduled share custody arrangement, one parent is likely to have the children for at least one more night than the other. The IRS would give that right to claim to that parent, the one that had them, one more night.
That's crazy.
And this is leap year. So
Wow.
next year, when you file your 2020 taxes.
That is crazy.
Yeah, that's why I was laughing when I was reading the article. Okay, so another tiebreaker rule. The parent with the higher adjusted gross income claims the child as a dependent in cases where the child lived with each parent exactly equally. So this means that if it was 50-50 and say we had a baby and he lived with you 6 months and lived with me 6 months, whoever has the highest gross income gets to claim the child. This might be the case if the child lived with a grandparent or other relative for some period of time during the year and the parents evenly divided the remaining time. Likewise, the caregiver with the greatest AGI becomes eligible to claim the child as a dependent when neither taxpayer is the parent. So this is kind of like if my grandma was still living and she was like, she was still raising me, she used to claim me, even though I did live with my mama sometime, but I live with my grandma. So I guess that would be that. But this rule only applies when no parent can claim the child. So my mother could not claim me, but my grandma could when she was still working.
Okay. That's interesting. Nice. Yeah. That's nice. Okay, but that's crazy though. One extra night. Just one extra night.
One extra night.
That who can claim the child. Wow. Okay, you go IRS. You go. But I'm going to tell you, back to the question you were saying about was it fair. Now, I'm going to tell you who really gets screwed. Now, it's these celebrities and ball players. Okay, the rich. Say, for instance, now, where we've all seen it a million and one times, that ball players, that these money-grubbing women getting 10 grand, 20 grand a month for a child just because the father is rich. Now, those fathers, those dads, yeah, they got the right to claim that kid. If that kid ain't living with them, yeah, I think that father should have the right to claim that kid. Because you getting 10 grand a month for this child just because you're a professional ball player or a singer, rapper, actor, or whatever the case may be. I think that parent should get the right to claim that child. That father does, because you getting 10 grand a month. The mother don't have to do nothing. So she can't say that you're not putting a roof over his head. Bull crap. I'm giving you 10 grand a month. You can pay your rent or your mortgage. You could get a car, take care of the kid and everything else with 10 grand a month. So yes, I think that those guys right there, if they are not allowed to claim their child, I think they're getting screwed. I really do. Yes.
Now I tell you, and this is only because I have a degree in accounting, and I did a little tax preparation back in the day. I'm not up on the laws because I stopped doing it for a while, other than just doing a little free software online. I use H&R Block, TurboTax, stuff like that. But here's the thing. Okay, if this woman is getting those $10,000 and $20,000 a month, whether it's alimony, child support, or whatever from the stars, that's considered income for her. So when she filed her taxes, that's just like her having a job. She's got to claim that as income because that money came in. Therefore, that money is taxable. So she's going to have to pay taxes on that money, Now, on the other side of that coin, the dude that's having to shove out all that money, that's an expense for him. He can write that off, because if you got that kind of money, your standard deduction don't mean nothing anyway. Standard deductions is only for us that ain't got no money. You know, I ain't saying it like that, but I'm just saying we ain't making in upwards of that kind of money that we got to shovel out $10,000 to $20,000 to anybody for alimony or child support. So therefore, what I'm saying is, this person right here probably got so many deductions that they're going to be taking to offset the money that they would be losing, that if they got a great tax accountant, then they should make out like a fat rat. They really should, because that tax accountant should be taking in all the receipts of all the money that they provided support to that ex or baby mama or whoever, and anything else, their charity contributions, any deduction that person can take to offset the amount of money that they would owe the IRS. Because in that same token, that woman that's taking in all that money, she also has to file a tax return, because she's not paying taxes on that money. So that means that money that she's getting is taxable. So it's a two-edged sword on that one, because she ain't getting that money scot-free either. You know, she got to pay. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like you know, when we look at taxes, we looking at like, okay, if we claim a child, we're going to get because we get the earned income credit. They're not getting no earned income credit. So them claiming the child and us claiming the child is going to be two different tax brackets. You know what I'm saying? It's not going to have the same weight, because they're in a whole nother class. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm saying. They come out better itemizing their deductions, keeping all the receipts for everything that they provided. So therefore, they can write that back off on their taxes and get that money back. And then the parent who's receiving that money, now they have to count that as income.
Mm-hmm.
So if they're not working, you still got to claim that as your income.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So in other words, they getting over, basically.
Who?
The female.
No, because she still got to file tax. Like I said, she might not be physically going and clocking in a job, but if she's getting $20,000 in alimony and child support, there is a line that says, okay, enter all your W-2s. You put in your W-2s. Okay, what else other income have you received? Have you received unemployment benefits? Have you received alimony? Have you received child support? See, all that is income. And to the IRS, you got to pay on that income. So no, she ain't getting over. She gonna have to pay some money back. 9 times out of 10, she gonna have to pay some money back, unless she's been paying payments to the IRS on that money. That money ain't tax free. That money is not tax free, especially if you getting upwards, like you saying, stacks and stacks and stacks and stacks and stacks. That's income. The IRS gonna look at that as, honey, you getting money, whether you sitting on your butt cashing a check at the end of the year. You got to claim that as your income. That's your income.
Mm-hmm.
Just like when we go to work and our W-2s is our proof of income, she's gonna get, I don't know if it's a 1099, I don't know what they give you for child support, for proof of child support or alimony. I don't know what schedule they give you, but either way, it's got to be filed. There's no such thing as free money in the United States. Somebody's got to pay taxes on it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm glad I'm not rich, so I don't have to go through that. And all my kids are grown, so
yeah.
I don't have to worry about that type of mess. So I'm glad I'm what they consider the middle class.
Mm-hmm.
The middle class. So I don't have to go through all that, worrying about all of this alimony and taxes and all of that mess. But anyway, okay, I just thought that was interesting. I just thought, I thought they'll be getting over, but I guess not. Since you put it like that, they got to pay taxes on it, and if they don't have income, I don't know how they're gonna do it.
Yeah, you know how sometimes.
So she got to save a little bit of that money.
Yeah.
If she ain't got no other income, because if she don't, at the end of the year, she'll be screwed.
She'll be screwed, because that's why they ask you at the end of when you do your taxes, say, do you want to apply some of this to your next year estimated taxes? You ever seen that? Some people go ahead and apply their refund to their next year, if they get a refund, to their next year estimated taxes that they may have to pay. And that's what businesses do. Businesses, you have to pay your taxes quarterly. As individuals, we pay we file once a year, but businesses pay quarterly, because if you don't, then you're going to get hit upside the head, if you got to do it all in 1 year, say do a whole year. So it's usually quarterly taxes are due, and you have to pay it like that. So that's probably how a lot of the richer people do it. They go ahead and pay a quarterly tax on the income that they have already got, probably like 10% of that income. They go ahead and pay it to the IRS, and they do that probably in the quarterly increments, or like 4 times a year. And that way, by that full tax season, they shouldn't get hit upside the head. But some people don't do it. So that's how a lot of the rich get in IRS trouble, because they be doing a lot of tax evasion.
Yeah. Taxes. Boy, I tell you.
Yep. So that's usually what happened. So back to our original topic, though. Do you think it's fair, though? We looked it up, and IRS said it doesn't matter. It's just who the child lived with. It could be just one day if it was leap year. If that child lived with that person one extra day.
That's the person that can carry him.
That's the person that can carry him.
Wow, that's crazy. They need to go back to the old days when you were selling kids. Anybody can claim anybody. Yeah, those were the good old days.
So we would love to have your feedback on this topic today. Hit us up at lunchtalkshow@gmail.com. If maybe you have gone through this scenario or know somebody that have, or you can hit us up on our Facebook page at facebook.com/lunchtalkshow. So me personally, I don't think it's fair. That's my ending statement.
Me too. I don't think it's fair either. So like I said, if it was some way for them to split it, but now we seeing that there's a lot to split it. So there's too much going hand to find out, how to do that. But I wish it was an easier way for them to split it if, he is doing, like you said, above his part when it comes to the support part. Right. So, we both agree on that one.
Yep. All right. So you got anything else? Any closing remarks before we end?
Do it.
All right. Thanks again for tuning in to Lunch Talk with Mike and Star. Y'all can check us out on all major podcast platforms. Make sure you subscribe, and we'll be back again next Friday. We'll be in March. And next weekend, you make sure you spring forward and set your time up next weekend. So.
Oh, it's already?
Already.
Wow. Okay.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot for tuning in. All right. Peace.